No one prepares us in college for the sheer amount of emails that we receive and send in the workplace. But there is an upside because people are so bad at writing emails and they're so boring that this becomes almost like an opportunity for us. So in this video, we are going to look at real world, my past managers' emails and break them down and see how we can write less shitty emails using the book Writing Without Bullshit and Humor Seriously. If you're new here, I'm Liz. I read a ton of books a year and I try to apply them to my life. So I just take pieces out of each one, combine them, mesh them together, and kind of see how I can apply it to my life. So if you're into that, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, let's jump into it. Now, the first book, Writing Without Bullshit, basically is about concise writing, specifically for emails, memos, things in the workplace. So it's a book about writing in the workplace. So we're not talking books or novels or anything like that, but like this is super applicable to our day-to-day lives. Now, he has coined the term bullshit ratio, and that's what I have on the screen here because he basically takes the meaningful words, divides it by the total words of like a text, a passage, an email, and that is what's called your bullshit ratio. Now, 70% or lower means you're in bullshit territory. Like, it is way too much fluff, it is not clear, it's not concise, and people are going to make mistakes. My favorite quote of the book was this one right here, and it is, "There is no form of email that has more potential bullshit than the email from a manager." I love this quote. I think it's hilarious because it's so true, but that is kind of what inspired me to kind of look at my past managers' emails and really just see if I can tweak them and maybe learn something about writing emails in the process. Now, Humor Seriously is something I wanted to bring into this email conversation as well because it argues that using humor in emails or just in business in general will improve productivity and engagement throughout the workforce. So I thought that was an interesting twist. So I want to add that when we start critiquing emails as well. Now, in her book, she argues that humor increases 4 things. The first one is power. So intelligence is highly associated with humor. Bonds as well, which is like human bonds. So like your coworkers and people around you, their engagement with you. And then resilience because it reduces stress. And then creativity, it increases as well because of psychological safety. People feel more comfortable when you use humor. You're almost like breaking the ice. Okay, so now let's get into the fun stuff, which is the actual emails. So these are real emails. This one is from my first manager that I've ever had. We're gonna call him Mr. Fluff. You've seen him in other videos. He has been stationed in many videos. There's a pillow with his face on it. Anyway, I had to do some serious Nancy Drewing to get this email because it is not when I worked there. So he is still using these fluffy emails. So let's dig into it. So we read here. I have a hard time even reading this because it's so fluffy. Okay, nobody talks like this, but I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but as we encounter various scopes and needs on projects, we are organically exposed to new information. Nobody talks like this. No, this is so bad. So what I did is I basically underlined the actual words that I think were useful and like meaningful, and then divided it by total words to get 27%. So this is like high bullshit territory. I think it's because of the language that's being used, like the words organically, the words proactively. They're very fluffy. And then this one gets me every time. This, however, nobody talks like that. I would never be like, this, however, leaves a learning opportunity. No, there's so many things wrong with this email. But the point is there. Like if you underline and you take out all that kind of like fluff, there is substance here. So I rewrote the email. Right here, I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 5 for humor because it was just kind of funny because it's just so worded weird. But the potential of humor is there because this person is a very funny person. Like they could sprinkle something in there. So I rewrote it. I think it's 1,000 times better. I'm giving myself a rating of 78%. There's not much you can do with kind of this email that you're sending out to multiple people, but as we work on new projects, instant improvement, because before it was as we encounter various scopes and needs. It's like, no, it's not that deep. Like as you work on new projects, you're exposed to new information. That's really the key here. And then which leaves learning to chance. And then this is the part where I added a little bit of humor here because I felt like the humor was lacking. So I have, please have a system identified, and there's examples, because I don't really know what you mean by system identified. So example, cooling towers, chillers, generators. And then this is where I added the little piece of humor here, something I may need to brush up on myself. So it would read like, something I may need to brush up on myself, you know, like, and then I did the little eyes, and that is to bring a little bit more humor in, and it's self-deprecating, which is the #1 form of humor that you can use to build trust between people, is by making fun of yourself. So he wasn't making, like, this email wouldn't be making fun of somebody else, it's making fun of themselves. And then this will build knowledge across disciplines when projects are slow. I think it's super clear. The bullshit ratio is much higher. It's still close to that 70%, but we added a little touch of humor in there, so I think it's pretty good. Okay, so this is manager 2. This was my second manager of my lifetime, of being in my 20s. Very thrilling stuff, guys. So manager 2, I'm calling Mr. Cryptic, because he has a very good talent at just forwarding me emails with like absolutely no context whatsoever, but in this case, he actually wrote the word context. Like, this person literally forwarded me an email, just kept it, like it just came in forward, and then it just says, he just wrote context. And it's like, okay, this is where you get wrong here. It's because now you're making me read other people's bullshit. So not only do I have to like see this email come from you, now I have to read other people's bullshit and then wonder why you sent it to me. And it also breaks the fundamental rule in Writing for Bullshit, the book, which is treat your reader's time as more important than your own. So you're not helping me in any shape or form by sending me this email. And this person tends to be like very to the point, even to the point where sometimes they won't even write in the actual text of the email. They'll just write in the subject, do this, and it just comes in with the subject. There's nothing in the actual email itself. So that is what this person is doing. Humor, again, on the lacking side. There's nothing there. If I were to redo this, I would add like bullet points, maybe summarize what the email was about. Like, there's just not much. And I can't even put it on a ratio because there's no context. And it's just funny because it says the word context. Okay, this is manager number 3, Mr. Jokester. You can see I always have misters because I've never had a woman manager. Maybe that's the problem. So this one, I think this guy's hilarious. So I gave him a 5 out of 5 on humor because his emails always make me laugh, which in turn like makes me like not hate the email itself. So it starts off, you can see just the sheer amount of text in here. I had to take some stuff out because it was like confidential or whatever, but can you look through this version of blah template and understand the logic and identify any gaps and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's very text heavy. But then at the end, he says, above probably didn't make much sense. So if you want to discuss what I'm prattling on about, we can chat. That is perfect. That is hilarious. I love that. I would keep that in the essence of the email. So I basically underlined all of it to see like what actually is bullshit. A lot of it was actually pretty good. It didn't make a lot of sense. So how I would redo it is, can you look through this version of the project template, understand blah. That was like the same sentence, nothing changed. And then I'm like, give some thought, let's hop on a call, because this is one of those emails where I can't explain this over an email. Like, hop on a call. He is known for these ... dots. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, he always puts 11 dots in there. I don't know why. And I added the LOL. He always does the capital LOL. So that is how I would add humor there. So it's very similar to the previous email, but you can see the bullshit ratio is much higher now. It's not 70 or lower. So this is how I would redo this type of email. It's a little bit easier than the one that had nothing in it. Okay, so I roasted these managers and their terrible emails. They're not that bad, okay? Granted, like, I spend a lot of time on my emails. Like, for example, this is an email I wrote literally on Friday. So we had a meeting and I just like needed a meeting notes minutes. So I just sent this email. This took me, you would think this would take me 10 minutes. This took me 30 minutes to write because I had to reference my notes. I deleted as much as I possibly could because I like to send very concise emails. I also like to add the visuals. I'm very big on this. Now, if you're not like an outgoing person, don't add visuals because it's gonna look weird. But if you know me and you've worked with me, you know that I love pictures And it just goes with my personality. You know, I'm 25, like I'm gonna use emojis. So in my meeting notes, you have updates to simulation. I usually use a warning sign, but this time I just used a fire sign because it wouldn't show up. And then I put to-dos, and I usually put Liz. Now I add the humor in the to-dos at the very end. Nobody actually reads my emails, but if they do, they will spot the humor. So I have add labor per work group, add some ifs based on estimate template. I'm talking about like Excel stuff. Ugh. And then the next one I have, contemplate life. That is how I sprinkle in just a little bit of humor to like keep things fun and interesting, and like we're working day to day. Nobody actually finds these, but every now and then I'll have somebody go, that was hilarious. When I sprinkle in something, usually I'll do a PS, or I just add it, something stupid like this to the to-do list. And then I put like next meeting, Liz discussion. Usually I have the meeting scheduled, but. So I'm gonna give myself 100% on the bullshit ratio because I couldn't find a single word that wasn't important in this email, so 100%. Perfect score over here. And then humor, I'm gonna give myself a 5 out of 5 because it's very hard to find humor in meeting notes. And this, prime. But I do it way too often, so maybe I need to find a new tactic. Okay, so we took a look at some emails from past managers and myself. You really want to play around with the structure, use bullet points, use pictures, add some humor in there, and then chop it down. You don't need those crazy words like various or organically. I've never used the word organically in email. I'm actually surprised someone has actually done that and thought that that was an okay word to use. But go in there, chop it down, use some visuals, add some structure to it. It'll be easier to read, and then sprinkle some humor. Just throw something in there. But if you're interested in seeing another tactic, which I like to use, which is called oops meetings, I will link it here. It's also from the book Humor Seriously. Really good advice. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.